Coming up today, key parliamentary positions remain unfilled as the 20th National Assembly holds its first special session. The parties can't agree on who should take the coveted Assembly Speaker post. The Pentagon says talks with South Korea over the planned deployment of a US missile defense system are progressing well. Plus, Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen insists a rate rise is en route but gives no hints about the precise timing. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Tuesday, the 7th of June. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. We are going to start at the National Assembly. The first special session of the 20th Assembly got underway this morning, but a number of key seats remain vacant. The ruling and opposition parties have been unable to reach agreement over which party lawmaker should take the prized National Assembly Speaker seat for the new Assembly. That deadline is today, and the parties still have to select the head of 18 standing committees by Thursday, with the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition Minju Party of Korea locking horns over the Speaker's seat. The minor opposition People's Party suggested each party put forth a candidate and have the Assembly vote. But the Saenuri Party rejected that idea as it lost its parliamentary majority in the April general election. The National Assembly has failed to meet the deadline of filling key parliamentary posts since 1994. So, with the rival parties fighting tooth and nail over the Assembly Speaker's spot, you might be wondering why the position is so coveted. Our parliamentary correspondent Park Ji-won outlines some of the responsibilities, powers and perks of the position.
One of the most important duties of the National Assembly Speaker, according to the National Assembly Act, is to oversee parliamentary proceedings. That means the Speaker can convene plenary sessions or committee meetings and designate the deliberation periods for bills. The Speaker also has the final authority over all parliamentary affairs. When certain conditions of urgency are met, the Speaker has the power to directly introduce bills to a plenary session for a vote without having to put the bill through the usual deliberations at the standing committee level. During his or her 2-year term, the Speaker also appoints a Secretary General of the Assembly Secretariat, a minister-level position, as well as the Deputy Secretary General for Legislative Affairs and the Deputy Secretary General for Administrative Affairs, both of which are vice minister-level positions. The Speaker also oversees the Parliament's roughly 4,000 employees and the Assembly's $468 million annual budget. On top of all of that, the Speaker gets a number of perks that other lawmakers don't. Whereas lawmakers have 9 aides, speakers have 23, including a chief secretary, a senior secretary for political affairs, and a senior secretary for policy. 4 bodyguards always follow the Speaker, and the Speaker's office is about 1,300 square meters, which is about 9 times larger than the offices of other lawmakers. The Speaker also has an official residence, a 3-story house built on a 7,700 square meter plot of land. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, there's been controversy and a number of contrasting remarks, but Seoul and Washington appear to be deep into discussions on the deployment of a US missile defense system called THAAD to South Korea. The two allies are now reportedly looking into where to place the powerful weaponry. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Hyun-bin with the details.
The Pentagon says South Korea and the United States have made considerable progress in their negotiations over the deployment of the THAAD missile defense system to the south. Spokesman Peter Cook said the two allies just have an unspecified number of complicated issues to iron out. Sources in Seoul say the two governments are already discussing possible candidate sites in South Korea. They include U.S. military bases and mountainous areas away from towns and cities. There's speculation an official announcement could be made during the annual South Korea-U.S. Defense Ministers meeting in Washington in October. In an interview with CNN on Monday, South Korean Defense Minister Han Min-koo said the THAAD deployment would drastically increase the allies' capacity to counter North Korea's missile threats. The start of negotiations was made public soon after Pyongyang conducted its fourth nuclear test and long-range ballistic missile launch earlier this year. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says North Korea could have restarted reprocessing spent nuclear fuel to harvest plutonium for nuclear weapons. IAEA Director General Yukiya Amano says satellite evidence shows North Korea has likely resumed activities at its main plant in Yongbyon. He expressed serious concern about the North's nuclear program and said it was deeply regrettable Pyongyang has shown no willingness to comply with the UN Security Council resolution adopted in response to its fourth nuclear test earlier this year. Amano added that the IAEA will continue efforts to reach a peaceful resolution of the nuclear issue and urge North Korea to cooperate with his agency and fully comply with their obligations under the Security Council resolutions. Hillary Clinton has enough delegates to win the Democratic nomination, which would make her the first woman to top the presidential ticket of either political party. The magic number of delegates a candidate must earn on the Democratic side is 2,383, and the Associated Press says Clinton has 1,812 pledged delegates and 571 superdelegates. Pledged delegates are won through primaries and caucuses, while superdelegates are not obligated to vote for any candidate and can switch at any time. This news comes after Clinton won the primary in Puerto Rico over the weekend and before 6 states go to the polls on Tuesday, including California and New Jersey. Clinton's rival, Bernie Sanders, has said he would take the nomination fight to the party convention in July. The AP report says it is no longer possible for him to amass enough delegates to catch up. The head of the US Federal Reserve has once again indicated that a rate hike could be on the horizon. In her final public speech ahead of a 2-day Fed meeting next week, Janet Yellen said if incoming data remains consistent with their objectives, further rate hikes would be appropriate. Kim Min-ji has more.
Could a U.S. rate hike be in the works? Speaking at the World Affairs Council in Philadelphia, Fed Chair Janet Yellen said positive forces supporting employment growth and higher inflation will continue to outweigh the negative ones.
If incoming data are consistent with labor market conditions strengthening and inflation making progress toward our 2% objective, as I expect, further gradual increases in the federal funds rate are likely to be appropriate and most conducive to meeting and maintaining those objectives.
Yellen admitted May job figures were disappointing, but said it would be wrong to put too much significance on a single report. She also noted the uncertainties facing the U.S. economy, such as slower demand and productivity, as well as inflation, which could change the Fed's course of action. On top of that, she said Britain voting to leave the European Union would have significant economic repercussions.
So an important question is whether the U.S. economy could continue to make progress amid fairly considerable global bumpiness. I continue to think that the answer to that question is yes, but the weak investment performance in recent months is concerning, and Friday's employment report provides another reminder that the question is still relevant.
Yellen's remarks come ahead of a 2-day Fed meeting scheduled to start next Tuesday. However, she did not give an exact time frame for a rate hike, in contrast to her speech last month when she said the Fed will accommodate one in the coming months. The U.S. Central Bank raised rates in December of last year after almost a decade of near-zero rates. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, just over 2 weeks to go until the Remain or Leave referendum, 3 polls in the UK have shown that more British people are in favour of leaving the European Union. The poll results released on Monday had the Leave or Brexit campaign leading by a collective average of almost 4%. Over 10% in each poll were still undecided. The poll results were blamed for one of the most tumultuous days for the British currency since the global financial crisis. The pound pound fell by 1.5 cents at one point on Monday, adding to last week's 2-cent drop. Volatility rates have doubled since April, when the Remain camp was ahead in the polls. An annual list of the most powerful women in the world has been released. South Korean President Park Geun-hye was ranked 12th, down one spot from last year. Kim Hyuk-yeon has more.
American business magazine Forbes has named German Chancellor Angela Merkel the most powerful woman in the world, maintaining her top spot for the 6th year in a row. U.S. presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton was ranked 2nd, followed by Janet Yellen, the chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve, in 3rd. Co-founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Melinda Gates, and Mary Barra, president of General Motors, rounded out the top 5. Forbes ranked President Park Geun-hye at 12th, down from 11th last year, mentioning the failure of her Saenuri party to win a majority in the general election in April. Lee Bu-jin, president of Hotel Shilla and eldest daughter of Samsung Group chairman Lee Gun-hee, leapfrogged 2 spots to 98th. Forbes' annual audit considers wealth, media presence, influence, and success to formulate its rankings. Kim Hyuk-yeon, Arirang News.
A group of Korean scientists have become the first in the world to prove the accuracy of newly developed DNA-altering scissors. The technology is said to hold great promise for treating genetic disorders. Oh Soo-young reports.
A black lab rat sports a patch of white fur on its belly. A team of Korean scientists altered the genes that produce its black fur with a pair of DNA-cutting scissors.
With the new CRISPR CPF1 scissors, we replaced a fertilized egg with one without the black fur genes.
The first batch only have a speck of white fur, but a few generations down the line, the rats will be completely white. The CPF1 DNA cutting enzyme used to modify these rats was developed last year by American scientists. But this is the first time the scissors' precision has been proven.
The old DNA scissors cut out roughly 90 other genes that weren't intentionally targeted, but we have shown that these new scissors are much more precise, cutting out an average of just 6 extra genes around your target.
Removing the untargeted genes could cause unexpected life-threatening problems. So the verified accuracy is deemed a major breakthrough for medicine, with great potential to improve surgical procedures for genetic disorders and diseases like cancer. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now, people in Korea are increasingly pushing away the rice bowl, with many believing, rightly or wrongly, that white rice can make you fat. As a result, rice consumption has dropped sharply over the past few decades. Hwang Ho-jun with the details.
Considering Korea's staple diet has traditionally been rice, the decrease in rice consumption in recent years is quite dramatic. According to Statistics Korea, an average person consumed about 130 kilograms of rice per year in 1985. 30 years later, that number had plunged to 63 kilograms, a decrease of more than 50%. What's causing the big drop is up for speculation, but many point to the recent popularity of low-carb diets in Korea, as many people associate carb-filled food, like white rice, as a surefire way to a widening waistline. However, experts say such beliefs are misguided. They say the complex carbohydrates provided by rice can actually benefit people to have a healthier diet, as it takes longer to digest and helps you feel full. To stabilize the supply and demand of rice in Korea, the Agriculture Ministry has started to impose measures to promote rice exports and the rice processing industry. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Korea's issuance of equity-linked securities has soared to a record high. According to the Korea Securities Depository, a total of 130 trillion won, or $88.59 billion worth of equity-linked securities were sold as of the end of last month. Of the products sold, equity-linked securities made up about 70%, and other derivatives-linked securities based on products like oil and gold accounted for the rest. The volume has grown by over $4 billion since the end of last year. Financial authorities are preparing purchase policies to protect investors from mistakenly buying ultra-high-risk products. Young, rich Chinese have chosen South Korea as their third most memorable travel destination, according to the Chinese Luxury Traveller 2016, released by Shanghai-based Hurun report. On the so-called Chinese Generation Yers, second-generation rich kids between the ages of 18 and 36 chose Japan, France and South Korea as their favourite travel spots. The luxury travellers chose South Korea and Japan for their geographical proximity and France for its romantic atmosphere and shopping centres. According to the report, those surveyed travel abroad once every 3 to 4 months and spend about $65,000 per trip, half of which is on shopping. Korea has called for a formal investigation into Nissan Korea for allegedly manipulating vehicle emissions tests. The Environment Ministry on Tuesday filed a criminal complaint against Nissan Korea CEO Takehiko Kikuchi, and it also fined the Japanese carmaker $286,000. In addition, the ministry ordered a recall of 814 Qashqai SUVs sold from November of last year to May of this year and suspended future sales of the model as well. The SUV's emissions management system allegedly turns off automatically under regular driving conditions at temperatures over 35 degrees Celsius. By turning off the device, fresh air cannot enter the engine compartment, producing more nitrogen oxide emissions. Well, that's all we have for now on this Tuesday afternoon here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for watching. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Our next scheduled bulletin coming up at 3 p.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.